Hello, Apps here from Dimp Digital. Welcome to Idle Footy Chat. On this edition, I'm joined by the one and the only Logan. How you doing?
Yep, good. Pleased to be back. It's always good to do a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, especially when it's around football, your favourite thing in the world.
Well, yeah.
So we're here this time to give a little review of the UEFA Nations League, the England games that have been on, hot off the England-Spain game, and obviously that diabolical mess that was the Croatia game this past Friday. And then at the end of that, perhaps we'll delve back into the Premier League and see what our favourite club football teams are up to and who's melting down, who's surprising us, and go for all that bollocks. But there's two matches to review here. Let's be upfront. You didn't watch the Spain game because you was otherwise engaged, so you've missed that.
Irritating.
Let's say that's England's most famous victory since Munich 2001. That's what the likes of the two Jamies were saying and Alex Scott, so that's their opinion. But you did sit through the Croatia game, which was annoyingly played behind closed doors, which zapped the atmosphere, not only from the telly, but obviously for the players playing. And before we even start talking about the game, I have to say, if UEFA are going to impose sanctions on these fucking cunts that can't keep swastikas out of pitches or whatever they did, I can't remember what they did, then I don't see why they aren't just letting the England fans in. And I know there's an argument to say, well, they might sell the tickets to Croatians and then we're not punishing them, but it's like, that's a punishment to both sides at that point, isn't it? When there's no fans there whatsoever, so the away team have to play in a very weird atmosphere. At that point, it feels like not only have Croatia been punished, but so have England. So have some of the England fans that have travelled out there who should have done their homework in all honesty and realised there weren't going to be any tickets for the game. Yeah. But still, it's a bit of a shit situation to be in for both sides.
Yeah, I was trying to think about it when I was watching the game. That's how dry it was at times. But I was trying to think about how they could do that more effectively, and I kind of just thought, well, if they're banned from that, then they should just be banned from playing at home.
Yeah,
like it should be as simple as that. So as you say, if you just let England fans go to away games, then that they still get to play at home.
Yeah.
So my opinion is, well, if they're going to be dickheads like that, then make them play away. And if they want to go and see their team, then they've got to pay a fortune in flights and whatnot to go and see them. And it's difficult because there's no way that you can effectively police it. It becomes really challenging. But yeah, that's all I'd say is go, right, well, no home games then.
Gone off the calendar, 2 home games for England. Thank you. But yeah, it was a weird atmosphere, and whether that had an impact on the game itself, I don't know. I mean, we've played plenty of time over the rec with 4 people watching and put in some awful performances. So
it must be hard, like going from playing against 30, 40,000, 50,000, 80,000 at Old Trafford to nothing in a shitty old stadium in Croatia. Like, that must be a bit of a come down. So to get yourself going again, I suppose must be a little bit more challenging, but you'd have to say that they should still be able to play to their ability or to the majority of their ability with or without a crowd.
Yeah, I felt most sorry for the likes of Chilwell, who sort of made his first start in the England shirt, and obviously a proud moment for him probably would have been going out and doing the national anthem in front of a crowd of sorts, but instead it was this soulless, empty atmosphere. And that kind of probably took the shine off it. His family obviously couldn't go and watch it either, so that was a little bit of a shame for Chilwell. I'm sure he'll get over it in time, though. Overall thoughts on the Croatia game? It wasn't particularly eventful. First half, in my view, was pretty diabolical. Second half, England kicked it up a gear, but Trashford, he was trash that game. He couldn't finish his dinner.
Yeah, it felt like we were getting into more threatening positions. I mean, it's funny because at one point, both me and you almost at the same time when Walker's crossing has been diabolical.
It was,
it was literally, I think we were both giving it, we're thinking once more. And it must have been about 5 or 6 times he got down that right-hand side and tried to cut it back or something. And rather than just putting a ball in, he seemed to always try and put it too far back. But it was just, I don't know whether he's it's saying that he's been told to do at City or a bit more, like he's used to someone lurking there, like a De Bruyne. But every time it just seemed like he was just putting it into no one.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a bit poor. It felt a bit disjointed, I guess. I don't know why, and it was just a bit uneventful. I don't feel like anyone was putting in. I don't know. Maybe it's not fair to say they weren't putting 110% in or 100%. It was just a little bit flat. I think the atmosphere played into that a little bit, but I thought Kane was pretty anonymous for the majority of the game. Again, I thought Raheem Sterling was pretty. I don't know, but obviously I haven't seen tonight's game, but against Croatia there was one point where he picked the ball up. He must have been about 25 yards out away from goal, and I thought, drive, hit that, do something. And he just sort of faffed around for a bit, and I just thought, what are you doing? Like, I've never seen you do that for City. Why don't you do what you're doing for City for England? But yeah, I just thought it was a little bit insipid, really. I don't know what other word to use.
Yeah, it was aggravating because there were chances to win the game.
Absolutely.
You know, not Raheem, sorry. Marcus had 2 glorious opportunities that he squandered both, which was frustrating because, you know, hit the post. And, you know, just if one of those chances had fallen to Lord Harry, you know, he would have fucking buried either of them. And it was a bit of a pain. It was one of those, that term we've used in the past and that many of the headlines might say, it was a laboured draw in the end. And didn't really do us any favours in terms of the UEFA Nations League, because a win would have been critical there, because especially based on what happened tonight with the Spain game, England managed to turn over Spain. Now, obviously you didn't get to see the match, but in general a very similar team to what had played. There's a few changes forced for Gareth in terms of suspension, so Hendo got himself, you know, suspended, so did Stones. And then Trippier came in for Walker, so maybe Gareth had got just as frustrated with the poor quality of balling as we had. And then obviously Harry Vinks coming in for Henderson. But it was a great match tonight, and it's unfortunate you missed it, because it kind of was a good advert for this, you know, this UEFA Nations League, in terms of that's 2 reasonably highly ranked teams, and England playing against, you know, a top side. Forget what happened in the World Cup. They've got a new manager, Luis Enrique. They knocked 6 past Croatia in their last competitive match, so they're obviously not exactly. They're not putting out poor sides, and they're taking it seriously. So it was a great match, and England ended up going 3-0 up. Ruthless counter-attacking football. Harry Kane, you know, I think he's very underrated in terms of what he can do outside of just scoring. Like, he set up 2 goals in this game and was involved in all 3, and his passing was superb. I'm sure you've seen that week in, week out for Spurs, but haven't seen it too much for England because he's not had too many runners that have been making good advanced runs. But that's what Rashford and Sterling provided in this match. And Sterling got 2 goals, first goal since 2015, and then Rashford picked up another one, which was good because they were slowly but surely 2 players that were getting criticised for not scoring for England. And after Rashford had squandered a brace of chances against Croatia, there was murmurs there that he's not good enough. And you look at the age of the pair of them, 23 and 20, and you go, right. And we're all guilty of going, right, it ain't good enough. But when you actually take just a step back and realise, you think, there's actually a lot of potential there.
Yeah, going back to Harry Kane, I've always thought, I say always, Harry Kane's one of those players, if he has a bad day, he looks like a donkey. He really, you watch him and you go, I'm not quite sure how he's scoring all them goals and doing what he does, but they're few and far in between now. And generally, if he's having an off day where he's not scoring, he will drop a bit deeper. It's almost like he realises, he goes, right, it ain't happening for me up there, I'll go and be useful somewhere else. And he's technically such a good footballer. Like, he's got such a good footballing brain. And one of the things that he's got a lot better at is holding the ball up and playing others in. Yeah. He's very good at that. And I've seen him a couple of times for Spurs. Like, he'll get the ball a little bit deeper and he'll just turn on it and he'll just ping like a Steven Gerrard ball over to the other wing. And you go, right, well, that is a centre forward there that's just done that. Like he is a very good all-round footballer. He works hard. He sets the tempo. He's again, as England fans, I think we get overly critical naturally, as you've just pointed out with Rashford and Raheem Sterling and whatnot, that they're young players. I think we forget, Harry Kane's just turned 25 and he's probably the best forward in the world at what he does. And we sit there and go, he's had a poor start to the season. Well, has he? Has he? Wow. Is he really? Like, we just get greedy, I think, and you just have to sit back and you sort of look at that front three or some of the options we've got and just sort of go, right, well, they're going to have good games and bad games, but generally there's not bad options, are they?
No, not at all. It was a really good performance in the first half, and Spain obviously a bit shell-shocked that it was clinical, which is something we haven't said about England typically. And
that's
even
going fuck.
Yeah, that really taught him and Busquets a lesson, fuming a bit. And I'll tell you, that Luis Enrique's a cunt as well. He was a right... fuck me, didn't he fucking bounce up and down in the second half? Bloody hell. If I was Gareth, I'd have nutted him, but that's why I don't get 4-year contracts at the FA. But yeah, they were shell-shocked by how clinical England were, and it was a great first half performance. Second half, Spain turned the screw a bit, and they ended up getting, I think, 73% of the possession. But in general, there wasn't too many hairy moments for England. Obviously, they conceded 2. One was in the 7th minute of added time, would you believe, which was unfortunately fucking Ramos who got that goal, but literally the last kick of the game. Disappointing first goal to concede because it was straight from a corner and a free header at the near post. And Pickford, just before that, it looked like he should have gathered it in, but he kind of just squandered a little low one out to a corner. It went off for a corner, and you think, well, that's all right, nothing will come of that, and they scored from that. And then obviously I sent you the video of him when he was dribbling it out and got caught out, and perhaps could have given away a penalty. I don't know. You had Martin and Alan both saying, "Yep, Stonewall penalty," but he done well to recover it, but he shouldn't be doing that. I don't know.
No.
I don't know what Gareth's drilled into his head there, but it needs to cut that kind of garbage out.
Yeah, it didn't look great, did it? It's like he said. I think, as I said to you when I watched it, I went, "Cool. How many times did he touch that?" And I went back and I counted them to you, and it was like 5 touches, and you've got a keeper bearing down, like a forward bearing down on you, and you go, right, why has that not just been pelted? Why are you even worrying about trying to do something with it? I don't know, but I think it's like what Pep said about John Stones. He will cost a goal here and there, but generally his play will create more goals. The idea is it creates more goals than it costs.
Yeah.
I guess,
in fairness to Pickford, one of the goals was kind of set up by him in playing it into Kane early. So he had the ball at his feet, flicked it over the whole midfield. Kane got the ball, swiveled, turned out, found who did he find? I think he found Rashford, and then Rashford found an absolute great ball to Sterling, and we ended up scoring. So I think that's one of the reasons we alluded to why perhaps Butland didn't get the nod, is that generally the assumption is that Pickford's a little bit better with his feet. But you're not invincible with that ball at your feet, and it can get you to some right old states if you're not sensible with it.
The thing is, practically all of these keepers do so. I mean, we saw Alisson for Liverpool try and do a Cruyff turn in his own box, and you go, right, I'd make a rule up that says if you're within 10 yards of goal, well, I tell you what, if you're in your 18-yard box, you ain't be doing that. You just don't. I don't mind you doing what you're doing, playing the ball out, but don't think you're Neymar when you're in goal. Because if you're Neymar, you wouldn't be in goal, would you? So remember that. Be doing that up top, causing problems. Instead, you're back there causing problems.
Which is definitely not what you want.
You just have to accept. I think there are going to be times when that happens, and we just have to go, yeah, that was a bit shit, wasn't it? And then, like they did at Liverpool, just go, right, we'll move on. He's done all right other than that. So,
yeah, exactly. And 3-2 in the end to England. It was a competitive game. People saying, well, it's just a Mickey Mouse tournament. Spain really wanted to win this. You could tell in their play how it was getting there's a lot of needle developing over the course of the second half, which was good to watch. And it just felt like a proper game of football. And for so long, other than the World Cup, obviously, where everything is on the line at that point, we don't really have this kind of outside of tournament football, proper games of international football. So I think if they keep developing this Nations League, it's going to be something positive. I still think they need to put 4 teams in the top division, though, so that every round or every match day, each top team's got 2 competitive games to play. And I know we're going to have people like Klopp going, well, too much competitive. Oh, shut up. You're playing in midweek in the Champions League, you can't. You're not moaning then, are you? They're footballers, for fuck's sake.
That's what they do. They play football for a living. You can't get annoyed because they play football for a living. Look, I can to a certain extent, I can kind of see what club managers are saying. They're going, well, 2 months ago they just finished the World Cup, and now they've already played 4 international games since, and it's October. And I sort of go, well, good. I can see what you're saying, but yeah, exactly. I kind of think, well, it's part of the problem actually that we've got too many cup competitions locally, like in individual leagues. Because I saw someone tweeting about Germany. You don't see them going, but actually they only have 1 cup. They don't have 2 league cups, so they don't play as much football, and there's only 18 teams in a league rather than 20. So the options are there, and I think the argument is get rid of that League Cup, and I'd rather have more competitive internationals. Like, that's how I see it anyway. But I think the league system's definitely better than pointless friendlies or whatnot. I think you get more out of it. But as I say, I think I was going through it earlier and I was like, right, which one are England in? You got like A4, B4, C3, and I was just like, I'd rather them just be like A, B, C, D, E, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, League One, whatever, however they want to do it. Do it, and then do it like that with more teams. So it's a bit more, because I think it's a bit too ruthless at the minute. It's like you lose one, you go, well, that's gone. Yeah. England are in a good spot now. Got 1 game to play. They're 2 points behind Spain, so relies on Croatia doing England a favour. But if Croatia were to beat Spain and England were to beat Croatia, then that's it. They're into that semis come summer, which would be nice. But I think the main aim still for Gareth's team, because this can still happen, is to ensure they don't get relegated out of that Div A, because that would be a bit of a stinker after what was a positive World Cup to then be relegated out of the top tier of the Nations League, where you'll play lesser opposition. I think having the opportunity to play Spain and then going on to beat them, strong Spain side, is a positive. And arguably, if you look at the games that England played in the World Cup, the quality of teams that England played, Spain's probably the best team they've played since, before the World Cup. Yeah, definitely. And they've come away with 1 loss, which was at home, which I think we both said was unlucky. Got a goal ruled out in the dying seconds of that, and then they've gone to Spain and sort of bossed them off the park in the first half. Got 3 ruthless goals, held on for a 3-2 win, and that's a big moment for England because we've not competed against some of the best sides for a long, long time. And the Nations League's given Gareth and the team a chance to prove themselves on that level. Yeah, I think so. I think it's always difficult because we've had non-competitive good results against good sides, but I think that's definitely where we've struggled to gauge where we're at, is because every time it's competitive, we get fucking blown away generally. And I think it's a good way for us to see what's what. I mean, they're not. You'd have to say, I don't know if they're like tournament football games or anything like that. I think that's obviously difficult to replicate, but it's definitely a step up from the slower pace of friendlies. So I think it's a step in the right direction. As I say, I just don't want to. I'm sick of club managers just bitching that international football's an inconvenience for them. It's just, it's just like, come on, what are we doing? It rubs me the wrong way, but they won't stop. They will never stop moaning. Fucking Wenger was one of the worst for it. He really was. I'm glad he's out of my ear hole. Now Klopp's taken up that fucking mantle. There's always another one coming up the. There's always another one to be an irritant. It's a great win. England changed their approach
for much of the whole of the Croatia game and much of the Spain game. Towards the last sort of 20 minutes or so, he actually reverted back to what seemed like a 3-5-2. I'm not sure what it was, but it's a more defensive approach to try and soak up some of the pressure that Spain were bringing. But for much of the two matches, they played 4-3-3, and Gareth had said this is kind of a natural evolution of the game. What did you make of this decision? Do you think that's the right one going forward, to have a 4-3-3 rather than a 3-5-2, which critics have pointed out that against the better sides, we just pinned him for 5 at the back for a lot of the game?
Yeah, I think a lot of the good sides figured us out and realised that if they pin our fullbacks into our own half, we haven't got much creativity. I think that was they sussed that out quite clearly. So I think Gareth's right to try and sort of do something about it, but I think you've got to play to your strengths. I know it sounds a really obvious thing to say, but we've clearly got strength in those fullback areas, and we clearly have lacked creativity in the middle. So I guess what Gareth's trying to do is give us more strings to our bow, essentially, in that he's brought Ross Barkley in for the 2 games, who's a more creative player. He's tried to, by the looks of it, get a bit more width coming from Rashford and Sterling. So I think he's trying to do something different. And I think, we've got to play to Harry Kane's strengths, because if you're not playing to his strengths, what's the point in it all? Well, he's your best forward. He's one of the best forwards in the world, and we're not playing to his strengths. And I think he's better, arguably, as a lone front man. I think I've definitely seen that at Spurs. He was a little bit less potent when he was playing up top with Lucas Moura. But I think it looks encouraging. I think generally you don't need to play a 3 at the back. I think he did that to give us a solid base. I think evolution was the right thing to do from that World Cup. I think clearly there was a few bits that we needed to work on. We got as far as we did because we were effective from set pieces. We didn't create a lot from open play. So I think what he's trying to do is just get us creating more chances.
Yeah, and there's evidence in the Spain game, 3 goals from open play, not a single corner England had in the match, and barely any free kicks in and around their half. So all the goals were created through open play. And I think we were the side in the World Cup that has some of the lowest stats in terms of open play chances created. So if that's the aim of the game, and still to have hopefully the strong set piece game to fall back on, then kind of mission accomplished from that point of view. Spain at times probably made it a little bit easy. They commit a lot of bodies forward, and they're there to be caught. But you still got to, make the chances. And 3 goals in open play, I think's good work. If that was one of the aims, to try and get a bit more force out there and score some proper goals, as people are saying, not these penalties and free kicks and corners that are lurking. You mentioned Ross Barkley, who played a part in both the games, and we had Dyer, Winks, and Henderson. Those are the main players for the central midfield role. Obviously, no Jesse Lingard or Dele Alli for these 2 matches due to injury. Do they fit into a 4-3-3, or is that a sign of perhaps their role either have to adapt into a 4-3-3, or maybe they don't get the nod because they were there every match in the World Cup, lurking, other than when Ali picked up an injury? Yeah,
and don't the forgotten man, Oxlade-Chamberlain, and the forever broken Adam Lallana. This is what I mean when we say we kind of lack in options. I really don't think we are anymore. And there's also RLC lingering as well at some point.
Get out at Chelsea! Of all the players to break through, I didn't think it'd be Barkley this year.
No, I didn't.
I assumed Ruben would be getting the nod, but he ain't. He ain't going to either.
To be fair, Ross Barkley looks a bit more. He looks like a mature player than I expected. He seems to have a little bit of. He's got the bit between his teeth. I think that's the way I see him at the moment. He brings the ball forward well. I still don't really know what he's good at. He's good at dribbling, but I'm just sort of like, right, are you a passer? Are you going to be shooting? What are you doing? And I think it's really difficult for Dele Alli, probably more than out of all those attacking midfielders. I think Dele Alli will struggle in a 4-3-3. I think he's always. But I think I said in the post World Cup podcast, you're going to get the best out of Dele Alli if he plays off Harry Kane.
Yeah,
and we ain't going to do that for England. So forget Dele. I think to a certain extent. Well. Just shoe on in your. We saw it for years with Lampard and Gerrard and co. Just shoe on in them in because they do well for the club. Ain't the way to be doing it. And I don't get the feeling that Gareth will do that. I generally think he will prioritise the team over the individuals. I think he's still trying to figure out who the solution there is. I think he clearly wants someone to shield the defence.
Yeah.
He likes to have a linking midfielder, so that's basically, as far as I can see it, Henderson, Winks, maybe one other that might come out. And then he wants an attacking player. So it's basically going to be one of Lingard, Ali, Barkley. Yeah. So there's options there for us, which is good, but I don't really know who I want. There's no obvious candidate for me.
No.
If you'd have asked me at the end of last season, or if I would say Chamberlain was fit now and playing like he was last season, I'd have him in there, I think.
Yeah.
But at the moment, Jesse Lingard hasn't played that well at the beginning of the season.
No.
Dele Alli's injured and doesn't look particularly great to me at the minute. It's hard to say.
Yeah, there's options though. That's the good thing. If they keep this system. Last thing before we move off England, there was a few new players blooded or at least brought into the fold, the likes of Dunk and Mount, Maddison, Sancho, Chalobah. Sancho got a brief cameo against Croatia. I think we were both a little bit frustrated not to see him a bit earlier. I think in about the 78th minute or so he came on and probably didn't actually touch the ball to the 86th minute. So just kind of prolonged the agony. But when he got on the ball, he looked, quick, interesting, and you just kind of think, I wish I'd had a good 25, 30 minutes to see of that.
Yeah.
And then tonight he brought Chalobah on for Winks in the dying moments to try and ensure that poor old Harry had been running all around, covered every blade of grass and got himself a yellow, so he's probably done that as a safety mechanism. But what do you think of him bringing some of these younger players into the fold, and then people like Maddison I'd like to have seen, but is the kind of negative from having two competitive games each time, meaning you can't really, if you want to win the game, you want to play your best side, you can't really risk just chucking a Maddison in there and seeing how he does, or a Mount, because you want to prioritise the victory first and the performance. Yeah,
it clearly is difficult, and you don't get a raft of substitutions to make either, so
no, just
you have to choose the right time. You've got to remember, and I'm all for blooding younger players if they're good enough. But at the same time, I think it's good just to get those players into those squads to just get used to get embedded a little bit into the England setup, rather than just pulling them in and expecting them just to perform. I think that's probably in Gareth's mind. But I think, Mason Mount's playing in the Championship. It's difficult to judge, isn't it? And you go, why should he be in there ahead of Ross Barkley, who's playing for Chelsea, who are up there in the Premier League?
Parent club.
Yeah, ironically. So it's difficult. But I like the way that because it's easy for him to go for an older, more established player, or bring in a Walcott or someone like that clearly hasn't done it for England before, but it's just easy to revert to that. And I like the way that he goes, you know what, I like some of these players. I've used them before. I'm familiar with them. I'd rather have him in there doing something. So I'm all for it. But as you say, it's frustrating because James Maddison in particular has looked really good for Leicester.
Yeah.
And you want to see them do something in that England shirt, but you're not going to get the chance, basically.
No. I mean, the next round of internationals, England should have one friendly and one competitive match. So hopefully the same players are fit enough, and then maybe a couple of them will get a start, and then hopefully he'll bring a few on earlier on at half time or whatever. so they can get a run out. But yeah, that's the only kind of drawback of having two competitive games and nothing else, is that you can't really take too many chances if you're serious about the competition, which evidently England, Spain and well, I don't think Croatia are anymore if they've been thumped 6-0. They probably want to get out there as soon as possible. But, you know, when there's a chance to go through or a chance to do well and keep yourself out of relegation, then you kind of have to put that best foot forward. And then if there's an opportunity to bring one of them on, if you're cruising, you might do. But the Spain game was never going to be a cruise, even at 3-0 up. There was always that worry they would work their way back into the game. They did. But positive, this is a good night for England and perhaps progress. We did wonder how they'd stack up against a good side after seeing them crumble against Croatia in the semi-finals, and then after the Labour performance was against Switzerland and the loss against Spain was like, well, as that team, are they going to flush away all the goodwill? But I think this 3-2 win will go a long way to keep that, and we'll see. Get a win against Croatia. If Spain go on to beat Croatia anyway and go through, fair enough, they go through. But it'd be good if England can maximise the points remaining and then use the next game to see the likes of a Maddison or a Sancho or a Mount in there. Try a few different things. Moving back to the lovely Premier League, which we both love so much. I want to start and do things a little bit differently. So leave Chelsea and United out of it because they're playing this Saturday. We can do a little game preview and have a chat about some of the meltdowns that are going on in that area. I actually want to start with Arsenal because I think before, how many games was it in? I can't remember, about 4 games in. I think they'd lost one against City, one against Chelsea, and I said that we both laughed and chuckled and said they're irrelevant. Well, they've gone on a bit of a tear recently and are actually looking like a decent outfit under Unai Emery and co. Were we wrong, and should we apologise and say actually Arsenal have relevance, especially in this top 4 race with the likes of United melting away?
Yeah, at the moment on how they're playing, I mean they're playing better football. One thing that become a bit of a myth at Arsenal was the fact that they play good football, because I think in the past few years the football's been pretty shit there, to be fair. I don't think they've played, you know, weirdly as a Spurs fan I always used to look forward to, I'm talking sort of like probably 15 years ago, I always used to look forward to putting Match of the Day on and actually watching Arsenal and the highlights. Yeah. Even as a Spurs fan, because I always remember you'd have like Pires, Lundberg, Henry all tearing forward, and at times they were breathtaking. And I think that got diluted towards the end of Wenger's reign. But actually now they're playing some pretty good stuff. I think to sum Arsenal's performance up this season, I think will be a combination of better performances against lower top 6 clubs, and I think they'll just come up a little bit short against the other top 6 clubs. That's where I see them at the minute. But because of that, they are definitely and clearly on current form as well, a top 4 contender. Yeah,
absolutely. They've been on a bit of a tear and, you know, won their last 5, and they are level points with Spurs, but have somehow snuck a better goal difference.
Yeah, one more.
Which I wasn't expecting when I looked at this screen telling me where everyone's positioned. But yes, apologies to Arsenal after they were written off and called irrelevant, because they've fought their way back in, and it looks like it could be a decent season. Whether they've got the power to keep this up, we'll see. But certainly going to be lurking on this sort of form. Your beloved Spurs.
Yes.
People were saying they've topped United. That proves that they will hack it against the big boys. They can challenge. And then back-to-back losses, got back on track with 3 wins. What's going on over there? What are they really? Are they title challengers or not?
Everything at Spurs is always a bit Spursy. So in a way that we did nothing over the summer, that became a big thing. We had a load of players, I think the most number of players from any club that were in the semi-finals. We did no transfer business. We haven't got a stadium. we come back and there's all the transfer saga with Alderweireld, Rose, players that didn't go. Hugo Lloris then gets pissed up and gets a driving ban, then gets injured. Defenders are getting injured. We didn't have any midfield. Harry Kane's knackered. Like, when you put it all together, like, everyone was writing us off, and actually Spurs are 2 points off top. So, in the grand scheme of things, it's not gone too badly. I think that the most depressing loss, for want of a better word, was against Watford. I thought that literally offered nothing. That was probably one of the worst I've seen Spurs play under Pochettino. It was so bad. And I think I said to you at the time, that win against United, we didn't deserve to win that. We should have been gone by half time, and we got lucky, and somehow United blew it in a couple of...
Where's that clinical Rashford when you need him?
Yeah, I couldn't believe that we went in half time in that game as a draw in at level. It was just unbelievable. But I think for Spurs, if we can come out to January and we're in a good position still around that top 4 spot, I think we'll be okay. If we can get in that new stadium and things settle down a little bit, maybe get 1 or 2 players in January, I think we'll be in a better place. But as always with Spurs, I don't think you could... It's really weird because we're the most consistent team, I think, still in the Premier League over the past few years, yet we still feel, or I certainly feel as a Spurs fan, we're still a little bit off the pace. I just don't feel like we're ready to challenge for a title. We just haven't. There's just something missing, and I can't put my finger on it. But overall, I think we've huffed and puffed a little bit. But considering everything that started at the beginning of the season, it's okay. And I think it might be our best start to the season for a few years as well. So all in all, not too bad.
I mean, the top 5 is separated by 2 points, and there's 3 teams unbeaten, 8 games in. You're not a million miles in, but normally there's a little bit of daylight between the top 4 sides, but at this stage there's not. So you can't really rule any of them out. It's just whether you got the belief they can sustain the charge for an entire season. And people might say to Spurs, "I go, well, that lack of signs will come and bite them later on down the line." But like you say, if they can get to January still within touching distance, there's opportunities there to sign players if needed. Whether Poch would or whether Levy would get out the chequebook is another point, but there's opportunities there at least. Liverpool slumped to 3rd. I must admit, I've been a little bit
slumped.
On goal difference. Slumped on goal difference. But I use that term slump because I don't think they've been playing. They've not been playing as well as they was last season. I think that's clear for all to see.
And me with Salah.
Well, is that the key? And I've got a bet on them, so I've got a vested interest in them winning that league. So I can't be having these lapses already after 8 games. And let's be fair. The Chelsea game they probably should have lost, but Danny Sturridge pops up with an absolutely brilliant goal. The City game was a bit of a drab affair. Again, probably should have lost, but Mahrez to the rescue decides to put that fucking penalty over the bar. I don't know. It's just something. I just don't feel like they're firing on all cylinders.
But is that ominous?
Well, yeah, because you'd normally say that if you can still get the results and not play well, that puts you in good stead. Because when you finally do click, you've still got the points that you would have got anyway. So
that bloody Liverpool side blew Spurs away earlier in the season.
Yeah,
honestly, they absolutely blew them apart. There's no other word for it. I wasn't even annoyed after it because I just thought, Jesus, we've been absolutely fucking tonked there. Like, it's literally like heavyweight that's just come and smacked you on the nose, and we just went core. And I'd probably say the first few games of the season they played really well, and then slowly they've started creaking a little bit. And they don't look as invincible as they kind of did at the start of the season. But when you look at the money they've spent, and obviously that's not the key indicator, but you go, well, midfield wasn't really a problem for you. You've gone out and spent 100 million or whatever. You go, right. Ridiculous, the fact that that's just sitting there not being used. And I think I don't think Salah will score like another ludicrous amount of goals, but I think he'll get near 20.
Is he broken?
Who was it that was? I can't remember whether I was reading it or whether I saw someone with an interview. But they basically said when they dislocated their shoulder, they didn't feel right properly for between 6 and 12 months.
Jesus.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not something that affects you in the way that you run, but obviously when you run, you move your shoulder and the way that you'd usually protect the ball and put your body in front. It still hurts physically a bit, but also mentally because you don't want that to happen again. And the recovery time's much longer than just the initial recovery phase. It's the whole piece around it. And arguably, when you look at how Salah was playing this season compared to last season, he doesn't look...
He can't shoot.
I mean, that's clearly a problem for him.
It's obviously no exaggeration, but he's nowhere near as devastating as he was finishing wise.
No.
It actually reminds me of when the start of last season. I think in the first match, it might have been against. I don't know who it was against now. It must have been against Watford. Some sort of side like that. I think they ended up losing 3-2 in the end. He had a bucket full of chances and missed all of them. And I was like, Jesus, where the fuck have they got him from? And I thought, you know what? At least he's getting the positions.
Yeah. And
the same thing's happening here. And again, he's just not quite finishing it. And there's only so much time, surely, that'll go by before that golden touch comes back. He'll start scoring again.
I don't know if you remember back to that Spurs game, but I think I was texting Pee-wee. And basically, I said, I don't know what's wrong with him, but there was times when he clearly should pass, and he was just greeding it every time. Like I think about 2 or 3 times he just greeded it.
So 40 goals gone to his head.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know what's wrong with him. And it's almost like now, if he don't score in every game, he sort of, not sulks, but he'll just do what he can to score.
Let's sulk.
Yeah, and I don't know, I just thought, I could never imagine Harry Kane doing that. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's an unfair comparison, but I just thought, you know, if Harry Kane doesn't score, you don't ever see him just going on a run or trying to just have a shot from 35 yards because he ain't scored. Like, it'd never cross his mind. And I was just like, is that, you know, because he knows that the chances will come if he gives them to his teammates to put on a plate for him. And
yeah,
I don't know. I think Salah will come good, but I don't think he'll have another, 40-goal season or whatever he did last season. I think it'll probably be half that. But I think once he starts scoring a few goals, I think you'll see Liverpool pep up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption there. Man City top the league with 20 points and an 18 goal difference.
Yeah.
Can they be stopped? They're not invincible, but
no,
they're a very difficult side to be beating and taking points off. Clearly,
I think they're still the team to beat. A lot of people are talking about Liverpool as the team to beat, and I was like, well, how's that been decided? But
it's that slump, isn't it? That's put them out of the picture now. That goal difference slump. They've gone from first to third on goal difference. That's not good enough at this level.
But that City team is just unreal. Like every time I think someone gets injured, someone else crops up and is just as good. It's like De Bruyne gets injured and you think, well, that's going to hurt them. Bernardo Silva's been fantastic.
Yeah, he has.
And you just go, well, he was all right last season, but I didn't expect him to be that good this season. It's like they've always got a like for like, weirdly. Like they've got no bloody backup keeper, but I'm pretty sure if you chuck that young boy in, it'd be like bloody Edison. Like it's really weird how they can always chop and change and it not really have too much of an effect. I think one thing for them though, where their difference to last season is obviously Sané was so instrumental for them, and they're not quite as good. I don't think with him out. I think he still needs to get back to it, but they're still the team to beat in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, and with De Bruyne due back shortly, there's every chance that they can go up another gear.
Absolutely.
So definitely a strong side. I still think if Liverpool get in the groove, they're going to be difficult. They feel like a bit of a momentum team. Like if they get on a little bit of a run, they could start trampling over teams, but. For Chelsea's sake, they've played They've played Liverpool and Arsenal, got them out of the way with. They're about to play Manchester United this weekend, who arguably aren't even a threat to points with the way that Jose's been melting down in the last sort of 6 weeks or so. Start of Chelsea, then we can end on Jose's misery, actually. I spoke about them being the dark horses in our last session, and I still think that rings true. They're joint on 20 points. Were unlucky not to beat Liverpool, and had a bit of a strange 0-0 draw against West Ham just before that. But Sarri and Sarri Ball seems to be working.
Yeah, you can't really...
Bridge.
I'm annoyed with myself that I'd kind of wrote them off in my head because their midfield is just a joke. Like, it's so good. Like, and it's not even fair, really, just talking about their midfield. They've got such a good squad. To write them off is crazy, really. But I almost in my own head did. I went, it'll be took that smoking bastard. Who's he? What's he now? And it almost annoys me because I just really want them to hire shit managers. But every time, it seems to somehow work out for them. And it doesn't look like it's rocket science. He's come in, they've got good footballers. He said, right, you're all good footballers. I want you to play good football like this. Hazard, you're my jewel. All I want you to do is score and create goals. And he's gone, yeah.
Put Giroud up there to be a nuisance.
Just
use him. What he wants.
Yeah. Just play him in and he'll win games. Like, it's not rocket science. Obviously, it's an oversimplification, but it's just like... I'm just annoyed because you've got a World Cup winning striker. You've got Alvaro Morata, who's one of the hottest strikers. You know, a lot of top teams wanted him a few years ago, scoring goals for fun at Madrid. They've got that up top. They've got Luiz, Cahill, Rudiger. They've got world-class players or international players across that team. I always thought Courtois was a bit overrated. He's one of them keepers that I thought I've never seen him pull off one of those saves where you go, core. Like, you look at David De Gea and you go, Jesus, how's he done that? But you don't. I never thought Courtois would be the biggest loss. Everyone was going, oh, Kepa, how will he handle the league? He's only a young Spanish keeper. He'll be took. It's been fine. Like, do you know what I mean? So if they can keep doing what they're doing, then they're in with a good shout. I can't see them at the moment, anyway, dropping off from that top four. No,
they're looking in good shape, and that dirty smoking bastard seems to have got them playing in not only an attractive way but an effective way.
Yeah.
18 goals they've scored this season. That's more than Liverpool, and you definitely wouldn't have said they'll be getting more goals than Liverpool. And
looked relatively solid.
Yeah.
Defensively.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're just all out.
And that's with fucking Luiz back there, who at the best of times can be a liability of a capital L.
Calamity David.
Can he really be trusted?
He absolutely can't, but...
what else are you going to do? Yeah. So Chelsea take on Manchester United at Stamford Bridge this Saturday, 12:30 kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
Jose this season played 8 games, won 4, lost 1. Drawn 1, lost 3. Minus 1 goal difference, 13 points, 8th in the Premier League. What's going on?
It's really hard to say because you got to say that it's nothing about it at the moment has been Jose Mourinho like, has it? Right. Like, other than the meltdown, which is very Jose like, but in terms of how his 3-year cycle goes, it's not played out. Like, he did well in that first season. He didn't do that well last season, and it's just kind of disintegrated.
Right, second in the league. Beat Liverpool with 38 goals from one player, whatever it was.
My point is, you never got the feeling that he was making progress.
No, City just blew everyone away. It didn't matter who finished 2nd or 10th. It was that big a goal for the City, which just stomped it. So
I thought, it'd be interesting to see what he does with this team in the summer. He didn't get what he wanted. And arguably, you've got Gary and Jamie going, you've got to back him. And I sort of go, well, yeah, you're kind of right. But I just think if I was Ed Woodward or whatever his fucking name is, Pratt Woodward, I'd be thinking, mate, I've bought you 2 centre halves already. I ain't buying you a load more. Fucking, you got enough there. Do something with it.
You've bought Tut, basically.
Yeah, so why am I going to pay 50 million or whatever to Spurs for Alderweireld that's nearly 30 years old? It's just like, I don't know. I don't know how much of that there was, but I was reading an article earlier about Jose Mourinho, and it was about his Chelsea side. I looked back at that, and there was, he had brains gone dead. He had Cech in goal, Terry, Lampard, Drogba. And I just thought, I looked at that spine, and I look at that United side, and I go, where is the spine of that team?
It's just Rob and Dave. I don't know what the rest of it is made up of. You've got 2 sort of either end sort of spears and nothing. It's just whatever he can cobble together.
Yeah, that's where it's really weird. Is he's normally, or he has historically been pretty good in going, right, I need him, or I need that, and I need that. And he gets it, and he wins. And with this United side, it's like he's gone, right, I need that, and I need that, and I need him, and I need him. And it it almost causes more problems than it solves. Yeah. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, it's like he signed Fred in the summer, and I thought, right, what's he offering then? Don't know. I genuinely don't know what problem he's solved.
Just ticks over nicely. Keeps things ticking.
But Jose Mourinho doesn't play ticking football.
Well, that's what he wanted.
I don't know. Jose Mourinho has always been better as the underdog, which is surprising to say considering he managed Inter Milan and Real Madrid. But I think he did okay at that Real Madrid job. Obviously, he won stuff. Yeah. But I look at when he was better in Porto, Chelsea when they weren't as good as they are now, and I think even Inter were a bit of an underdog to Juve. I think he always thrives in that, and I don't feel like he's thriving at what is arguably one of the biggest clubs in the world. I don't think he's...
Yeah, but when he came into United, they were definite underdogs at that point. Like they weren't winning trophy after trophy. There's obviously, since Sir Alec left and Davey took over, they've not been the same force, have they? That they were under that regime. So he still had that element of underdog there with United, just that the overall, perhaps the size of the club was bigger than what he's used to, but talent-wise, he still had to rebuild and put something in place and be like, right, this team needs sorting, because we knew David been there lurking and Louis van Gaal.
Yeah, but this season I was having to think about it, and I was like, I wonder if Rui Faria leaving has really hurt him. I wonder if that's where the downfall started, because he hasn't looked right since he announced Faria was going, and then he just
mastermind.
Well, yeah. I genuinely think there's something in that. And
someone once said that Steve McLaren was the mastermind when he was assistant at Fergie when that treble got won. So, and we know how that turned out for him. And I anticipate the same fate for Louis as he branches out. Someone did say it to me once. They said apparently McLaren was the mastermind. And then you see what he'd produced when he was actually let off on his own, and it was, obviously for England's sake, it was a shambles. But
apparently, Steve McLaren was a really good coach. He just wasn't a very good manager, and some people are better off not being the primary focus, and that's fine. But I don't know. I look at Jose, and that's the only thing that's changed between now and last season. But I think I've always wondered who was doing his recruitment at Chelsea or at Inter. And I think the worst part of the United malaise, if you like, has just been his recruitment. It's like, I think it's one of his back four or the back five in one of the other games was the back five that he got left by Sir Alex Ferguson. I find that incredible. I think that was Luke Shaw, Jones, Smalling, Valencia and De Gea.
Yep. They were already there.
They were already there, and that's 5 years ago. And I just think, how's that been allowed?
Yeah.
That was took back then.
Yeah, it wasn't the strongest back then, and it's probably only got worse in terms of Jones and Smalling.
Fullbacks and keepers are all right, to be fair. There's no, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But
no,
the problem is Jose's. I don't know. I think Jose is very conflicted at the moment. I think for some reason he kind of wants to play a more expansive game at times, but it just doesn't suit him. Whenever he's been successful, really, he's played more on the counter, soak up merchant. And generally, I think that's where he is. I think early days at Chelsea, he was a little bit more attacking, but I think he's developed into a counter-attacking coach, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But he seems to be caught in between loads of different styles, and because you look at his defenders, and they're all a bit different. Like they're not. You can't take out one and seamlessly put in another that's similar. It's like Lindelof's more of a ball-playing centre half. Yeah. You've got Bailly that's a bit of a brute. Smalling that
reckless.
He is. You've got Jones. I'm not quite sure what he is. I couldn't tell you. I don't know. And then
central midfielder if Alec had his way.
Yeah. And then you've got Smalling that's kind of not even good enough to play for England in a ball playing way. And they just go, well, I don't know. I think that's a problem for him. And
yeah, it's not helped. I mean, the only kind of light in the tunnel was the last result. 2-0 down against Newcastle, who were probably thinking, finally, we're going to get our first win of the season. And they did show some guts to come back and turn them over, because they could have easily just folded up and gone away there, and then it would have been, that was expected. So.
I thought they were going to absolutely chuck that, and because there was rumours that he was going to get sacked, after that game. Yeah, so I thought, if that's that, then isn't it? Like, I thought that's that dressing room gone 2-0 down to fucking bag of shit Newcastle, and that's game over. But yeah, they turn it round, so you sort of have to go fair play. I think he withdrew someone after about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It did that old trick again, and it actually worked for him for once.
Chucked someone under the bus as usual.
It's just that United needs some good surgery doing. Is Jose Mourinho a surgery type manager? I'm not convinced. I can't see him being there. If he lasts out this season, which I expect him to, I think, all right. Surely he but it's again the alternatives. I'm worried they're going to come sniffing after that Poch.
If you were Poch, though, would you really want to walk away, go to that club that the expectations are sky high? At least at Spurs, no matter what he does, he's going to get patted on the back, basically. Because he's got to that stage where...
He might just go, do you know what? I can't be doing any more here.
To be fair, yeah.
He can go to United and just go, I'll come to you if you just buy me Harry Kane.
Yeah, buy him.
Bring with you Harry Kane and Dele Alli, and then you've got a deal.
I don't know if I'd want that.
What?
Just from an England perspective, I'm not sure. I think Harry being...
Forget it's Poch.
Yeah. I don't know.
If you stick that Harry under fucking Jose, we're in trouble, but...
Yeah, that's what... Well, I know it's Poch, but I just like the fact that Harry's the main man at Spurs. And I don't know whether he would be the main man at United, and it might cost him England. I don't know, but that's just...
A worry.
The cynical view that's not needed. But that does concern me. Leave him where he is if he's playing well. Don't disturb him. Just let him get on with his club football so he's ready for these internationals, is what I say.
All I think that needs happening is that squad needs trimming. It's too bloated. It needs...
Fucking flush the lot.
It needs a... mind you, saying that, I think there has been some positives this season. I think that Diego Dallo looks good. I like the look of him. If he was a fullback for Spurs, I'd be raving about him.
Cool. Luke Shaw's obviously been a positive.
Luke Shaw's been a positive. If United hit anything like a good bit of form, they can really come back. I just don't. Jose just don't look like he knows what his best team is or best way of playing.
No, absolutely doesn't. He's got no idea. Evidence in the fucking Newcastle game. He took Bailly off after 20 minutes, like you said, and then half time took McTominay off and put.
That's the second time he's done that to Bailly this season.
Yeah. And guess he replaced him with Juan Mata. And you think, hang on, that's not like for like. And then obviously brought his enforcer Fellaini on at half time. You think,
obviously, I think.
Why aren't you getting that right from the start?
Yeah, that's exactly it, isn't it? It's like he's rectifying his own mistakes in the team setup within 20 minutes. You go, well, how are you not predicting what that bag of shit Newcastle are going to do?
Even on FIFA, I'll be reluctant to make changes that early because I feel like I could turn it around. But he did it. It worked. The simple end of that was that it worked, and
that defending, by the way, just for that Newcastle game, was nothing short of fucking diabolical in that first half. It's the defending that's letting United down. It's just piss poor. And I don't know why, because it's so weird seeing a Jose team that is just piss poor at defending. But and his solution at the minute is just basically buy me Alderweireld and Harry Maguire. You go, well, hang on a minute.
Is that going to solve it?
Or you're just putting him into another bag of shit. I don't know. It's strange. It's really weird. I can't even put my finger on it.
We'll see. We'll see as the season goes on. I wanted to mention Huddersfield, Newcastle and Cardiff, who have gone 8 games without getting a win. So those 3 are rooted to the bottom of the league.
Get out of here, Warnock. You'll be sacked by Christmas. Thank fuck for that. Still, I cannot. Honestly, I'm so annoyed at him for being surprised about rules that got sent off, and he went there. Have you seen that challenge? You must have seen it. Diabolical. Yeah. It's just the most awful challenge off the ball. And he goes, nah. You go, fuck off, Warnock. Get him out of the Premier League. He is not a Premiership manager at all.
Get him out.
Little rant I had to get in there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a fair one because we only see Warnock every few years when he somehow
for a few
gets
months
someone out of the chat. Yeah, exactly. It's normally short-lived. So probably won't have to worry about him too long. And if they don't start picking up wins shortly, he will be gone. They've got a big game this weekend against Fulham. So Fulham, despite getting at least one win, are still only 2 points above the relegation zone. So they could do with a win there.
You can't score against that Fulham side, then you ain't scoring against anyone.
No.
They leak goals like anything they do.
The leakers conceded 21 gols. That's disgraceful, isn't it?
It must be the most in the Premier League.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's why you're sitting 23rd, sitting 17th, because you can't be leaking 21 goals.
Buying bloody Andre Schürrle and Vieto, and that's going on back there. I couldn't believe, by the way, they got Vieto. Honestly, he is one of my go-to football manager strikers. He is a pup on there, and he somehow ended up at Fulham. They must be playing a bloody football team.
I was surprised they got fucking Schürrle as well.
Yeah,
I know he's not. I know he's probably past his prime, but still,
winner, isn't he?
Yeah, playing at Fulham, Craven Cottage, 17th, 21 goals leaked.
They're going down. I can't accept leaking.
Who's going down then?
Well, that Cardiff team are going down. There's no way they are staying up. They can't score and they can't defend. Right, so that's that done. I'm sorry, but that is that. I think I don't want to say Brighton because that hurts me, but I think they could be in trouble. I think you've got. I think it's basically. I'd probably say Cardiff bottom, then Fulham.
Yeah.
It's gonna Huddersfield.
So Newcastle, Rafa gets it together and pulls Newcastle out of the doldrums.
It is the only thing that will keep them up.
Yeah. Mike Ashley won't. Hopefully he'll sell that fucking club soon.
But yeah, I can't. I don't know. It feels a bit out of order saying that about Huddersfield. But then again, I look at someone like Southampton and I go, that bag of shit Hughes keeps getting jobs in the Premier League. Basically takes teams to relegation places, gets sacked, somehow gets another team, scrapes enough points to stay up, and then gets into a fucking relegation battle. He's toot. So I look at a team like them and I think, well, we could easily get dragged into it. But yeah, I think Newcastle will get a bit of form together at some point. Fuck knows when. And I think it'll be Cardiff, Fulham and Huddersfield that go down.
And some people will say good riddance. That'll be the end of them. Well, I think that'll be it for Idle Footy Chat on this occasion. Call it to an end. England and the Premier League discussed. I imagine we'll be back when the next round of UEFA Nations matches are.
February, innit?
No, I think they've got another set in November to clear up the last games.
Right.
And then then next year, everyone at that point will be. You'll know whether they're supposed to be in the semi-finals and the playoffs and whatnot. So
Christmas holiday podcast.
Well, it's not far off, is it? That's the trouble of it. I'm trying to find the fucking fixtures, but I can't. So we're not going to know. That's the end of that. Oh no, there we go. Yeah, so November. Yeah, so we'll be back at some point in November, about a month or so from now. So hopefully a few more games in the Premier League. Klopp will be moaning again because his players going off on international duty, but
doesn't like it.
Does not like it, and England will hopefully beat Croatia, and hopefully Spain draw against Croatia, which means England will go through as group winners because they'll have a better head-to-head than against Spain. The 3 goals to 2 put them in front, even though I suppose they work out on goals scored at that point, but that's the maths there.
Having a debate with himself. Don't even need a podcast, friend.
No. Could just sit here, just read through Wikipedia and chat about that. But yeah, the semi-finals and the finals are in June, so should England be successful in that endeavour, that's when they'll next play their competitive matches. And who knows, they could be the inaugural winners of the UEFA Nations League, as unlikely as it sounds. Back from the brink. Gareth, new contract, just get that in there before we go. Well done. Well deserved.
Yeah.
Got to keep him because he's just, at least people actually want to play and he's got that atmosphere going. At the very minimum, that needed sorting and that seems to have been done. And now the results are coming as well. So beat Croatia, I'll be happy with that. Whatever happens with Spain and Croatia, I'll just have to bin it and it's out of England's hands. But wouldn't be a terrible end to the tournament to finish in second, and then the qualifiers will start kicking off, I guess. Ugh. And we're back to playing toot.
Yeah,
and that's the only thing about those qualifiers is although they're competitive games, there's a lot of toot to be filtered through, so you don't really get to play a proper team for a long time.
The format should be similar to how it is now. So if you want toot to have a chance, let it play against other toot.
That's the only way they get in. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's pointless.
But then you could end up with having half toot and half the good teams get filtered out in the brutal showdowns they've got to have.
You can't. If you want the toot to have a chance, then they should go through some sort of pre-qualifying toot to then come up against the better sides. Or if you want toot involved, then give them a chance to actually get there. You can't have it both ways. And if I had my way, I'd go pre-qualifying. And then you can get in and have a chance against the good sides. And if you don't beat them, then you're out anyway. I don't even want them at the World Cup or the Euros. Stay out.
Fucking drop them. Good riddance. Right, that's it for us now. Obviously, subscribe to the podcast if you're listening to it or have stumbled across it. Even on YouTube, just Dimp Digital Unplugged will find it on any podcast outlet. So including the likes of Spotify, but I think generally Player FM's the better one to be using for your podcasting.
Google Podcasts.
And, I don't know if we're on that.
We are.
Are we?
Yeah.
For sure?
Yeah, I've downloaded on there before.
Good.
Dimp Digital, 4 days ago, Dimp reviews Assassin's Creed. It's there.
Yeah, so there you go. If you want Adkins to spoil that for you, download that podcast and it'll be there for you. Nothing more for us to say though, apart from thanks for your time and ta-da.